2020 was supposed to be the year China's movie market finally surpassed the United States to become the biggest in the world. But with productions halted and cinemas forced to shut down, China's National Film Administration is now reading a very different script. The pandemic means its box office will nearly halve, with losses of over $4 billion. The administration's director says the industry will now be forced to reform and upgrade itself, which analysts say could mean a number of things.
It might be more difficult for smaller budget films to get up, just because the distribution for those is going to be quite limited. Streaming services obviously are going to want big hits. It's going to be hard, I guess, to do ensemble pieces where you have lots and lots of actors. The use of overseas locations is really going to suffer. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to see films internalised back into their own nation, and they'll be made locally without the need for travel.
India's film industry is also under a cloud. A recent video conference involving several Bollywood bigwigs heard it will take them about 2 years to recover financially, with various productions and tens of thousands of jobs hanging in the balance. A report by KPMG suggests India's film industry may take longer than expected to recover, with the pandemic likely to make fans wary of going to cinemas even after they reopen.
They're already talking about putting in place a number of restrictions around cinemas, as they are pretty much everywhere around the world, in terms of limited seating, spatial distancing for people queuing to come in, staggering of film time so that not everybody's coming in and out at the same time. It's such a big part of the lives of people in India. I don't know that people will stop going back to the cinema. I think they'll be keen to get out.
Forcing Indians to stay home has also led to a 40% increase in television consumption, including streaming services. Between January and March, Netflix alone added over 15 million subscribers worldwide. In the West, that's forced several parts of Hollywood to make some bold choices. Once upon a time, the Oscars didn't allow films that debuted on streaming services to be eligible for nominations. Now it's making an exception, at least until cinemas reopen. And Universal Pictures chose to premiere its animated epic Trolls World Tour online, dealing another blow to traditional business models that film distributors use to milk as much profit as possible.
All the business model evolved usually around something called windows of distribution. So if we have a blockbuster, this blockbuster would have been limited to theatrical distribution for about 3 months. Then some video on demand service would have it, and so on. And in some cases, it took 2 to 3 years for a film to travel through this chain. Eventually, with the advancement of technology, filmmakers started pressing for simultaneous release in theaters and online and via different platforms. But obviously, big distributors are not happy because they cannot exploit the film in the way they know how to exploit it.
Professor Yordanova says a lot of film distributors and cinemas were already floundering before the pandemic. Now many theatres would struggle to reopen, let alone stay afloat, with limits imposed on audience numbers. Then there's the issue of pricing, particularly when unemployment is on the rise.
If a family wants to go to the cinema, it means they have to really fork out what they pay for several months subscription to Netflix. Just economically is not viable. These things are not going to go away, but they will be becoming really cherished, privileged spaces. I imagine that this would be something like going to the opera.
But before we roll credits on cinemas altogether, history shows that no matter what the situation, the need to go out and see a movie is always there. During this pandemic, drive-in movie theatres across the world have enjoyed a surge in popularity. The cars ensure social distancing and the films satisfy our need to be collectively entertained. You're unlikely to find a better metaphor of together apart than that.